You were genuinely excited about it. You had the tab open, you made a playlist, you told a friend, and for a while it felt like this one might actually stick. Then one day, and there wasn't really a day, it just kind of happened, you stopped. Not dramatically. You didn't quit, you just didn't go back. The tab's still open, the app is still on your phone, the materials are still on your desk, but something turned off. And the strange part is you don't feel sad about it. You feel nothing, which somehow feels worse. Most people explain this to themselves the same way. I lost motivation, I got bored, I'm just not that person. They treat it like a personality verdict, confirmation that they don't finish things, that they can't sustain enthusiasm, that maybe they never cared as much as they thought. But motivation loss and interest loss are not the same thing, and confusing them is how people end up blaming their character for what is actually a very specific psychological process. Here's what losing interest often actually looks like from the inside. You start something new and there's a window. It might be a week, might be 3 months, where the newness itself is doing a lot of the emotional work. The learning curve feels like progress, the gaps in your knowledge feel exciting rather than discouraging. You're not being good at it yet, so there's nothing to protect. Then something shifts, and the shift is subtle enough that most people miss it. The thing stops being a place where you feel curious and starts being a place where you feel measured. You're no longer a beginner with permission to be bad. Now you have a baseline. Now there's a version of yourself inside this thing that can fail. And very quietly, without a single conscious decision, your nervous system starts to weigh the cost of continuing. Not in those words. It's not that direct. It's more like the book feels heavy, the gym feels far, the guitar feels like a test you didn't study for. And since you're not failing at anything by not going, since there's no external accountability, the easiest thing is to simply drift. And drifting doesn't look like quitting. It looks like busy. It looks like I'll get back to it this weekend. It looks like your phone at 11 p.m. It looks like the project file you open, stare at for 40 seconds, and close without changing anything. For a lot of people, this pattern has almost nothing to do with the activity itself. It has to do with what the activity started to require.
At a certain point, most things we pursue start asking us to be seen, even if only by ourselves, to show up with our actual current level, not the potential we imagined. And that moment, the moment where pretending isn't possible anymore, is exactly where interest tends to disappear. It can feel like boredom, but it's often closer to self-protection. There's a misconception worth naming here, and it's one that a lot of content about this topic gets wrong. People assume losing interest means the interest was never real, that they were just chasing novelty, that they're someone who needs constant stimulation. That's sometimes true, but often the interest was real. The problem isn't that they got bored. The problem is that the thing became load-bearing, attached to their identity, their self-image, their sense of potential, and the risk of performing badly inside it got too high to keep engaging with casually. So interest doesn't disappear because the thing stopped mattering. It disappears, in many cases, because the thing started mattering too much in the wrong way. The quiet cost of this is worth sitting with. When something stops feeling like exploration and starts feeling like evidence of who you are or aren't, you stop actually engaging with it. You manage it instead. You think about it, plan around it, feel guilt about it, explain it to people, but you don't do it. And over time, what you're left with isn't boredom. It's a longer and longer list of things you were almost someone who did. If any of this feels familiar, there's no technique to fix it tonight, but there is one honest question worth asking before you write something off. When did this stop feeling like mine and start feeling like a test? Because interest doesn't always need to be reignited. Sometimes it just needs to be depressurized, given back its permission to be ordinary, unimpressive, and unfinished for a while. Not everything you start has to become something, but it's worth knowing whether you actually lost interest or whether you got too close to finding out something you weren't ready to know yet.